Hey, so I was gonna wait to do a live, but I just want to say, you know, whew, if you are close to your parents, if you're close to your mother, um, once they're gone, it's like, wow, it's unreal. And it just happens so fast. And, you know, um, she should still definitely be here. Um, I feel like had she had the proper care over the last 4 or 5 years, um, it could have been detected early. And so my mother passed away from stage 4 ovarian cancer. Um, and stage 1 and 2 are not easily detected. We found out when speaking to her, when speaking to a gynecology oncologist on April 22nd, um, that there is only testing for cervical cancer, and that's when they do the pap smear. They do the swab of the cervix. So the fallopian tubes, the uterus, the ovaries, there is no testing to test for cancer early, to do, preventative testing. Um, so my response to that was, well, why are doctors not, or the hospitals or whatever, not requiring scans and ultrasounds like they do for mammogram? I mean, it should be, at a certain age. Even women in their 30s are getting ovarian cancer. So, I guess you get it at any age, but starts happening in your 30s and on up. And so I want to especially say to my ladies, um, it's good to get genetic testing, genetic blood work done to see if you are predisposed to any diseases, any cancers, any, um, my mom did not have that blood work done. I'm going to do it. I'm also going to inform my gynecologist. Once I have the opportunity, I'm going to inform her. Um, my mother passed away of this, and I'm going to let her know that I want to have scans at least once a year, either 6 months, every 6 months, or once a year. Also, vaginal ultrasound. I just want to make sure that everything is okay. Um, so, to my ladies, um, I am suggesting you can do what you want, but the numbers for catching ovarian cancer at stage 1 and 2 are very, very low. So I would highly suggest that you um, let your gynecologist know that you would like to do the scan. You can do, if you want to do full body scan, or if you want to just do, scan of your pelvic area, any vaginal ultrasound, just so you can, just do extra precaution. Um, and that could be once a year. Some people get their pap smears twice a year. I mean, not twice a year, but every 2 years. Um, I do it every year. So that's what I prefer to do. Um, so yes, that's what I'm suggesting. In addition to the pap smear, get a scan of your pelvic area and vaginal ultrasound We have to be proactive. Um, some doctors are not going to make certain suggestions, you know, and sometimes they're not going to know to do certain things unless you let them know, you know. For example, me, let my doctor know, my primary care doctor know what happened, and I want to do some genetic blood work testing. Um, whatever preventative things you can do to catch things early, or you know, um, and just hopefully nothing is there, but just to take precautionary steps, um, just so you can save yourself if you are wanting to live here on this on this earth, this plane, this realm a little bit longer. If you have kids, you have goals, you have things you want to do, you want a little longevity, then you have to be proactive in your health care. That's that. I make it a point, I'm in a city now. I'm not in Texas right now, but I'm in Houston now for the time being. And my doctors are Black. I also made it when I was in New York. I made it a point, for the most part, when I could, have Black doctors. Um, and, sometimes they're not thorough. Sometimes you just get shitty medical care because some doctors don't care. And, but if you find that your doctor is not performing up to your standards, get another one. Do not stay with a primary care doctor or any doctor who is not serving you, especially your primary care doctor. Your primary care doctor is supposed to be on top of shit with your care and, making suggestions, staying on top of, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. If they know you already have existing conditions, they should be on top of your care, have a health plan for you, and don't be afraid to ask questions. One thing, my mother's had a primary care doctor that was not on top of shit, which is why she ended up having stage 4 cancer. And I'm blaming her, and also this gynecologist she had that has since retired, but told my mother at a certain age you don't need pap smears. Well, you need to absolutely get checked. I was told even if you have a hysterectomy, you can still get infections and things. So you should be getting checked. Definitely get checked. As long as you have everything down there, you need to be getting checked. I mean, cancer can just, it can happen. My mom had all her organs. She didn't have a hysterectomy. I'm really, really, really upset. I really am. I'm really upset. I'm going to do things to take action for sure. I'm not going to let this go. My mother should definitely still be here. Also, she had an autoimmune disease called sarcoidosis. So she should have been getting regular chest scans because sarcoidosis, sometimes I can't say that. One of the primary organs, well, it attacks the skin. You can have skin issues, which she did. It can also attack the lungs. So people actually die from sarcoids because, it can really like cause lesions on the lungs or whatever. And that's not even what it was from, but the cancer did spread to her lungs. So I feel that, well, once you're at stage 4, it's going to spread other places, period. But, being that she did have sarcoids, her lungs were already sensitive. Um, so, it may have even moved faster, once it got it. I don't know. I don't know what happened. We didn't have an autopsy. She didn't need one. Um, so, uh, yeah, I just am coming on here to just vent. I'm just upset. I miss my mom. I got here in March and she passed in on May 6th. I'm blessed, 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 blessed though to have spent every single day, moment, hour, well, as long as I could, but when she was at the hospital, almost 2 weeks, I was there every day, morning, unless I had something to do in the morning, you know, but I would get there definitely, usually before 12 o'clock. But if not, I was there at 8 and I would stay until 8, between 8 and 11, you know. A couple times I stayed overnight. Um, when she went to the assisted living facility for a week, I was there. And again, even the hospital discharging her, the social worker discharging my mother to an assisted living facility that did not have the proper medical care that my mother needed. That she needed she needed certain attention. She needed to be in a rehab facility from the hospital, not going to an assisted living facility where they did not have the proper medical staff available. At stage 4 cancer, she needed um, to be in rehab immediately after. Um, so I was there for a week. Now she knew the director at the assisted living. So that director was nice enough to give me the check back that my mother gave her because, she was like, she should be here. She didn't know that she was in that condition because she wouldn't have accepted her. Um, you know, so, but things happen for a reason. My mom wanted to go there. She pretty much insisted on going there. So, it was okay, but they weren't able to give her the attention she needed. But I think it gave her some relief going somewhere that she wanted to go. She wanted to go home, but she knew it just wasn't possible with the setup at this house. And so then she was at the facility 2 weeks, and her last day wasn't even a full day, but I was able to give her a surprise birthday party on May 4th. My mother's birthday is May 9th. I knew before I got here, just by things she was saying, and I just am so spiritually and intuitively connected when I tell you. And my mother knows that, and people who close to me know that. So I knew before I came that she wasn't gonna make it through the end of the year. I knew she wasn't gonna make it to her birthday. I just knew. She wasn't telling me really what was going on and how she was feeling, but she was scared. She did tell me she was scared. She did say she was surprised she lasted as long as she did. And after I got here and saw how she looked, and the last time I was here was November 2023. She had a mild heart attack. And in these last few months, being at the doctor, going to ER, just learning different things and doing a little research on cancer. Cancer can cause strokes. Cancer can cause heart attacks. So, in my mother's age, having that heart attack now, her primary care doctor, that should have alerted her to say, well, let's do some more testing. Let's see what's going on. Let's see what's going on. She didn't give a fuck. The bitch didn't give a fuck, period. You know what I mean? Like that's just the bottom line of it. And I told my mother that. And she saw that in the end because, she thought so highly of this woman. And I'm like, she's not doing shit. What is she doing? And before I even got to California, I called her I made an appointment to speak to her doctor because I was mad. And I said, and when we did speak on the phone, I said, I'm calling. I want to ask you. I said, now my mother has been a patient of yours for several years. I said, I want to know why you have not had a follow up with her since she had her heart attack in November. I said, she has been telling you her stomach has been hurting. You have not done anything. You haven't made any referrals for testing. I said, what's going on? She couldn't believe I asked her that. And I was speaking just like that, calmly, but firmly and direct, because that's how I am, especially after living in New York. Um, and, you know, she said, oh, well, I want to, they only had a telephone uh, conference after her heart attack. What kind of fucking follow up is that? Now, I know sometimes my mom she just didn't feel like she wasn't feeling well. She didn't feel like going into the office, but she needed to be seen. She needed more done. She needed more done. Um, and even December, it, it, I feel like when my mother started having these stomach pains after she came to visit me last year, May, June, in Houston. As soon as she got back to California, she's telling me she's having this stomach pain and she sounded worried. And I said, well, you need to get tested. You need to do some testing. And then I asked her about it again. She didn't do it. She mentioned it to her primary care doctor. I don't even want to call the bitch a doctor because fuck. The woman told her, oh, well, maybe it's a UTI. What? Maybe? Maybe? But you don't have her come in. You don't tell her, and I know sometimes my mom just, she might have refused certain things. I'm going to find out, though. Definitely find out. Things will come out, especially when you take legal action. They start, oh, well, this and that, and she didn't want this and she didn't want that. Well, you're the doctor, though. If you really care about your patients, you're going to tell them, listen, you're at a certain age. You need to start having testing. You have this autoimmune disease. We need to see what's going on. I just want to make sure you're okay. That's how you had to talk to my mother. You know what I mean? And anyway, I feel last year when my mother was still eating, she was moving slow, but she was still eating. Not much, but she was still eating. She was able to eat. She was able to sit down and eat a meal. So I feel like she would have been strong enough to do some treatment. And maybe then it was at stage 3, but maybe she could have done some treatment to keep her here at least a couple more years. Now, once you have cancer and it hits a certain stage, it's going to come back regardless. It's going to come back. I think even with stage 1 and 2, cancer probably comes back. So once you have cancer, you could live between 2 to 5 years. And some people live longer than that. It just really depends on your body. I think it depends on your body, your mind frame, your determination. It was just too far gone. It was just too far gone for my mother. She wasn't able to eat. She didn't want the feeding tube. She said there's risks and complications with that. So she didn't want to make it worse than what it already was. And then the chemo wouldn't have done, they weren't going to do. Well, the good thing, the gynecology oncologist was straight up and said, listen, you came in here on a gurney. You're not eating. I'm looking at how you look right now. And she said, you are too weak to do the chemo. She said it would shorten your life. She said, and it would make things worse. Like she said it could cause blood infection. it could just make it even more. She said it could make it worse. She said, you want your last days to be, you don't want to go through that. And I said, thank you so much, because that's what she needed to hear. And then when we go to the regular oncologist, that bitch was talking about, oh, well, uh, you know, she was only talking like, well, this is what was gonna happen. Chemo, she was she wasn't even as honest. She did not honestly say, you cannot do this. You're not strong enough to do this. She was just being very technical and medical, and I couldn't stand that shit. I didn't like her. I didn't like her either, you know. And some of these doctors are so robotic, and just they're so ugh. I don't know. It's like they're brainwashed. Some of them are just brainwashed. They're desensitized, no compassion. They're just cold. That gynecology oncologist, I appreciated her for just being honest. Because I said, no, we're not going to do chemo and surgery. And I said, we're not doing any of that. I said, look, she can't do it. So it's not even a discussion. That's what I said. I shut that shit down. I said, it's not a discussion. It's not happening. So that was that. But anyway, yeah, just if you are a caregiver for your parents, just make sure you are really advocating for them. If you live out of state and your parents are in another state, make sure you're asking your parents the questions. If you know that they have certain appointments coming up, and it's, an appointment that you know you need to be at, that's what I would do. I would come out to California and go with my mom to certain appointments that were serious appointments. Or if she had to go to ER, in November, she had to go to ER. And I was right there next day. I didn't play about my mom at all. And that's what you need. But there was things she didn't tell me. But, I'm going to share what I can share. I'm only saying certain things right now. But just make sure you are staying on top of your health. And if your parents are still here, you make sure you stay on top of their health as well. And you're with them at those appointments, and you're asking certain questions. Sometimes they don't want to ask certain things, or they're not telling you everything. And, you know, you need to be on those conference calls, any calls, any appointments. So anyway, my mother's funeral was June 7th. This is like, it's been a good year, a little bit, but this right here is, my life will never be the same. My life will never be the same. But, the blessing, and I told my mother this, the blessing, as painful as it was as well, to see my mother going through that, to know that she wasn't going to be here at a certain time. But the blessing is that my mother was 25 when her mother passed away, when my grandmother passed away. So she had to raise, and I was born the next year. She had to raise me by herself. And now that I have lost my mother, the strength that my mother had. Now I remember when I was little, she would cry a lot. And she would tell me she missed her mom, because, I'm an empath. So, even as a child, I'm like, oh, what's wrong? I'm concerned. And just looking at this now, I said, I told my mom, I said, I had you 51 years. I said, I would love for you to be here longer. I don't want you to leave me. But I can't be selfish. I am blessed to have had you for 51 years. And it means so much to me. And I'm hurt that she's not here. I'm sad, but I'm also happy that I was here in her last moments, because that really would have, man, the Most High knows. The Most High knows. Um, that would have, I don't know what would have happened, but I always told my mother, I didn't know when it was going to happen or what, but I knew in February. I knew in February as time was getting closer and I'm talking to her and she's telling me certain things. But, when my mother started getting older and, just more doctor's visits and things like that, I'm like, man, just the thought of it, I couldn't even think about it, like not being, being here without my mom. It's just always been me and her. So, um, this is a challenge. Man, I'm sad every day. Sad every day. But, the last couple weekends I've spent time with friends and family and, went to a concert over the weekend and, you know, but just being here in this house, being in San Francisco is going to have a whole different experience. It's going to be a whole different experience for me, even though I was born here. But I lived in New York longer than I lived in San Francisco. So for me, New York is home. For me, New York is home. Um, but, the funeral service is in Omaha, Nebraska. That's where my mother is from. And she had bought her plot 50 years ago, and she's going to be in the same section as her parents and grandparents. So, that's beautiful. I am just praying for the strength, and I'm speaking to my mother and, in spirit, and like, I need to be strong to get up and speak at your service. I know I'm going to be strong enough to be able to do that. That's my mom. I'm going to get that done. That's going to happen. It's going to be a beautiful celebration of life, beautiful service. I already know. I've just been doing everything, handling everything. So it's been an experience. But yeah, just take care of your health. Make sure you advocate for your parents. And it's important, especially being a person of color, people of color. We have to really advocate for ourselves and our loved ones. Okay, so anyway, I just want to say that I'll probably come on here again at some point, but take care of yourself. Peace, love, light, and healing.